I don't know about you, but I'm definitely in my wellness era. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Regine and I love creating content all about how we can raise our self-awareness to elevate our life. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel and let's get to today's video. So as you know, on this channel, we love to talk about how we can embody the best version of ourselves and set ourselves up for success. So I'm really excited to talk about wellness today because it's the foundation for everything that we do. If we're not well, then we don't feel good and then we're not able to show up as our best. So we're going to dive into that today from 4 different aspects. So emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness, and physical wellness. So I'll first talk about what I mean by each of these categories, then offer some suggestions on how we can improve our wellness in these areas and make sure that we're feeling our best. So first up is emotional wellness. So I consider this to be anything pertaining to our feelings and our connections with others. So how are your relationships? Do you have a big social circle or do you experience social anxiety? Are you maintaining your relationships? Are you quite isolated or are you often in touch with friends and family? Also, how do you feel about yourself? How is your self-esteem? Is that quite high? Could that be improved? So anything pertaining to feelings and connection, I categorize as emotional wellness. And so if we're looking to improve our emotional wellness, what are some things that we can do? So if you find that you're quite isolated or you're not the best at maintaining your relationships, could you set yourself a goal of checking in with friends and family more, even if you're not feeling great? I think often we can wait to feel amazing before we take these kinds of actions. Maybe we think we don't want to pass on any negativity to others and things like that, but this is what friends and family are for, right? So even if you're feeling low, it's a great idea just to reach out to those people. Like, that's what they're there for. They want to support you, and that in turn will help you to improve your wellness and start to feel better. Maybe you don't feel good about yourself. It could be a good idea to dive into that a little bit more, understand exactly what's causing you to feel that way, and make a plan of how you can address that. That may mean getting the help of a professional. So for instance, if you have issues with your body, maybe that's getting a personal trainer. If you're struggling with things like social anxiety, maybe it's worth working with a coach or somebody who can help you with that. Or maybe it's that you need to work on building your confidence. Now, we know that the best way to build confidence is to keep promises to ourselves. So maybe you set yourself a challenge of every day or every week deciding something and making sure that you follow through, and that will build evidence in your mind that you are somebody who does what they say they'll do, and in turn you will learn to trust yourself and your confidence will naturally improve. Or maybe it's that you're experiencing sadness or going through something like depression, and then how can you work on that? Now, aside from seeing a counselor or somebody who's trained to deal with that, simple things that you can do are just to feel your emotions. I think often we get into this cycle of trying to suppress our emotions, especially if they're negative emotions. We always want to suppress them, avoid feeling them because they don't feel good. But by suppressing them, they don't actually go away. They stay within our field and they show up as other things. So that might manifest as a physical illness, for instance, or getting angry at somebody because you have all of this pent-up emotion inside. And so it's always good just to give yourself that opportunity to acknowledge your feelings, feel your feelings, and try to identify what these feelings are trying to tell you. Emotions are just there as indicators. So if you're feeling something that you don't like, it's literally just telling you to pay attention to that, or maybe it's something that you need to work on. It's not something to avoid. And I think we all have a tendency of trying to avoid particularly the negative emotions, the low vibe emotions, but we have to remember that as human beings, we are meant to feel every emotion on the spectrum, good, bad, everything. That's part of having a human experience. Every emotion is just there to teach us a lesson and just to tell us the things that we need to work on. So it's always about feeling that emotion, allowing it to pass through you, as opposed to trying to suppress it and keeping it within your field and then never getting anywhere, never improving. The worst thing that we can do is harbor these negative emotions, these particularly low vibrational emotions, guilt, fear, anger, bitterness, grief, all of these things. They really do affect the way that we show up in the world. And so part of managing our emotional wellness is allowing ourselves to feel all of these emotions when they come up, but really understand what it's trying to tell us. Like, why are we feeling this way? Addressing the issue and moving on so that we can raise our vibration and get back to a place of at least neutrality, and if not, happiness, joy, peace. That's where we really want to be in order to create what we want in our lives. Okay, so now let's move on to spiritual wellness. Now, what I mean by this is your connection to source, your connection to the creator, whatever it is that you believe in. How is it that you are maintaining that connection? For me, that is through prayer, it's through spiritual texts and things like that. I also love being out in nature. I feel really connected when I'm in nature, but for you it might be different. So what are some things that you could incorporate into your routine to maintain that connection? So maybe, for instance, you're into meditation. That's something else that I practice regularly. I find it really grounding. Or maybe it's that you want to ground yourself by walking outside barefooted. That's something that can be really good for just grounding you and connecting you back to nature, back to the source. Maybe you're more interested in things like crystals and tarot or horoscopes and things like that. That's not for me personally, but maybe that helps you to feel more connected to something greater and to shift you from purely thinking about this material world and to tap into the spiritual world and recognize that there is a greater power, and just to help you have faith in something bigger than you, so that when you are trying to go after these big goals and chase these milestones, you can have that faith and you can believe in something greater that can help to carry you through. Maybe it's the power of manifestation, maybe it's human design. What is it that resonates with you that you can incorporate into your routine and have a regular practice so that you keep that connection, you keep that faith, and that helps to carry you through? So this is of course very personal, so it's up to you to find what works for you, test a few things and see what resonates. Okay, we're now on to mental wellness. So for me, when I think about mental wellness, I think about things like your level of motivation, your self-talk, your self-perception, how you're feeling about yourself. As you know, we will always act in accordance with our self-perception, our identity, how we see ourselves. So it's really important, if you want to elevate in life and you want to advance, that you really see yourself as somebody who can do that. You have to see it before it happens. You have to believe it. And so it's really important to pay attention to the thoughts that you have. So are you having lots of limiting beliefs? When you think about going after something, do you second guess yourself? Do you assume that you're going to fail? Or are you quite motivated to chase the things that you want because you understand you're in power and you understand that you can create the life that you want? So that's a big part of your mental wellness. So some good ways to improve in this area, if this is something that you're struggling with, is journaling. If you watch my channel for a while, you know I have an obsession with journaling. I think it solves every problem. So this is a great thing that you can do. You can journal on your limiting beliefs, become really conscious of the thoughts that pop into your mind when you think about chasing something, and also become conscious of how big your dreams are. If you're not even allowing yourself to dream big, that is also a limiting belief, and that's something that you could perhaps work on. Try to understand where this belief came from. Try to find evidence in other people of why this isn't true, and you can completely dismantle that belief and adopt a new belief that's more empowering, that will motivate you to go after the things that you want. So another thing that falls under this mental wellness is your resilience. How strong of mind are you? Is it easy for you to fall off track, or are you able to kind of bounce back from adversity, from challenges? Are you somebody who spirals very quickly? If one thing goes bad, do you then kind of spiral and think that, oh, everything is now bad? Are you able to have perspective? Are you able to control your mind and turn a bad situation into something positive and take something from it, learn a lesson? These are all things to consider, because these are the skills that will really carry you far on this journey of elevation, up leveling your life. Like, you really need to be able to master this, because there will always be issues, there will always be challenges, but it's how do you bounce back from that? How do you cope with that? And having mental resolve and mental strength and resilience is a big part of that. So another way that we can actually build and maintain this mental resilience is even things like exercise. So we know that exercise not only, of course, can transform the body, but it's really good for building mental strength as well and discipline, just making you somebody who is tougher and stronger physically and mentally. If you are able to see yourself building up the weights that you can lift and reaching those goals, it also translates into other areas of your life, and you build up that strength and that belief in yourself that you can accomplish the things that you want. And also just the endorphins that you get from it. So if you have a regular practice of exercising, let's say you work out every morning, for the rest of the day you have those endorphins. So when things come up, you're better placed to deal with them because you already have those happy hormones. And lastly, with exercise, it's also great for releasing stress. So it could also be used not just for setting yourself up for success, but when things go wrong, it could be a great escape for you to release any pent-up emotion and clear your mind and get back to a place where you're able to carry on and bounce back. Okay, so now we're on to physical wellness, and this follows on nicely from what we were talking about with exercise, because of course this is all about how you are managing your body. So this includes things like the amount of sleep that you're getting, your appearance, personal hygiene, if you're keeping up with things like that. That is one of the first signs when somebody is not well mentally, is when they neglect things like that. So pay attention to those habits as well. That could be an indicator of something not being as it should. So, are you taking medication if you should be? Are you supplementing your body? What's your nutrition like? Are you eating well? Are you fueling yourself sufficiently? Are you going to the doctor when something is wrong, or are you neglecting yourself? These are all things that fall under the physical wellness and maintaining ourselves physically so that we're able to operate at our optimum level. So physical wellness may seem basic, it may seem rudimentary, but actually it's very important. If you have any intention of being the best that you can and enjoying the best from life, you also need to consider looking after your body as best as possible. So making sure that you're eating nutritious food, you're not eating foods that are just going to leave you inflamed and contribute to illness. Our diets are so poor now, generally as a society, that we're all experiencing inflammation. We eat so much sugar, for instance, and that definitely contributes to things like aging and most diseases. So if you're interested in looking your best, for instance, that's something that you need to consider as part of your physical wellness, and it's much better to prevent something rather than treat it later on. So these are all things to pay attention to. If you're interested in dating somebody who is in great shape, for instance, it's likely that you will need to be in great shape yourself, because like attracts like in that sense. So these are all things to pay attention to if you're interested in elevating or getting the most out of life.